This is episode number 14 of Dev Branch, Developing WordPress Developers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's right.
Brought to you by Serverpress, makers desktop server. They make local WordPress development easy. Check them out over at serverpress.com.
Serverpress.
I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me at Jason Tucker on Twitter.
Jason Tucker.
I'm Steve Zehngut. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress Meetup.
Steve Zehngut. Hi, I'm Say Reed. I make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress at Say Reed Media on all the things.
She does. And it's your boy Jason Cosper, aka Fat Mullenweg, here to talk some WordPress today.
Go over to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, and follow us over there as a podcast. And while you're there, leave us a review. Also, you can go hang out with us over on Discord. Go to WPwatercooler.com/Discord for more info.
Chat with us.
So stupid.
The last one went wrong. That wasn't what I was intending to do.
It sounded like those 1-900 number commercials from the late 90s that would be on TV like late at night.
I didn't mean to do that right at the end. I was going for ASMR, not 1-900.
Uh-huh.
But, you know.
Uh-huh.
Pick up the phone.
Anyway.
All right, today we're going to be talking about developing WordPress developers. And Hauwa at the beginning asked me, like, what the heck are we talking about here?
Can I intro this?
Please do. Please do.
Right,
Go for it.
So Courtney and I have been talking for many a moon about WordPress training. Basically, we're teaching people WordPress because we have taught people WordPress in various forms for a really long time. Not that long though, because we're super young.
Please stop.
Okay. Anyway, so we are.
Our audio only listeners are going like, what the hell is this?
I don't know what's happening. So Courtney has been doing things really officially because she's awesome like that, and putting all her time into. Well, not all her time, obviously, but a good portion of her time, I'm sure, into developing training materials at Learn. It's Learn, right? Not
yes,
it's Learn.
Yep. Learn.wordpress.org. And the team behind it is the training team over at make.wordpress.org, in addition to the community and several other teams all working together.
Train, learn, all of those teams. Those are all teams, which is really funny to me. And then Hauwa, where do you fit into the train team learn?
So I'm co-rep, co-teamer, with Courtney. Get confused sometimes. And I joined training team. I think it was last year or the year before? The years are melding since we've been through the whole thing. But I met. I was introduced to training team at WordCamp Europe, so I think that would have been 2019. Yeah. And I joined them there, and then started getting heavily involved in Learn around the fall of last year.
And this is a volunteer position, or are either of you paid to contribute? How is that? Just curious, because we've talked about that.
I'm volunteering, so I'm not paid.
I have volunteered since 2014, and only 2 months ago took a position with GoDaddy Pro that afforded me time to work on training and learn.
So it's like part of your job description now to contribute, right?
It now is.
Awesome.
That's the
really
dream.
Cool.
It really is the dream, right? Like just to be sponsored to help people. Like that's that whole 5 to the future thing, but that's another topic. But it's good to see that people like you are getting into there and being able to do that. Yay. But so you recently launched, Learn recently launched, and we were going to have you on, but didn't work out scheduling wise. Basically a whole new set of tools, right?
Correct. Yes. Learn launched last summer, technically, and then a bigger scene was made of the launch last winter, US winter. So December, right before State of the Word. And during that time, we have lesson plans and workshops that are currently available. A lesson plan is things that have been being created really since the team began in 2013. Meetup organizers often will use them for resources to instruct at a meetup group. If somebody is not sure what they could cover at that particular meetup, that was kind of the vision originally. And workshops began last December as well, and discussion groups go with that. Discussion groups are available to see through the meetup listings when you go into any WordPress dashboard. If you happen to see that there is something that says discussion group with it, that's referring to a real-time opportunity to talk with people that make some of the video courses and workshops on Learn.
Oh, you're muted, Say.
It's kind of like office hours.
Yes.
Yeah, like with the folks. And then but now, so this has been something that we've talked about the different nuances of, is that my training, the training and the teaching that I've done has been more on the user end for small business owners and people who use WordPress to learn about WordPress and how to use it and get the most out of it. And the training that you're doing is training people to build WordPress, right? To make WordPress.
It can be all of that.
Or it's all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of it.
There
That's
is
awesome.
a link on the training team's site about who can learn help. And it's everybody from, I just want to write a couple posts and I need to know what I need to know to write some posts, all the way up to, I want to be a developer or a designer and this be my main job, my main gig. Along that pathway, Learn can also help onboard people to all the contributing teams as well. So it's pretty vast. Think about all of the learning styles people have, all of the different job roles or the needs they have for using WordPress. Think about every skill level, every learning style, every language, every ability. It's pretty vast to think about how can we help people learn WordPress and remove barriers in that process.
It's such a big vision for education. Where would you say you are in that? Like, so, I mean, in terms of both quantity, but also in achieving that goal of all of those formats and all of that stuff.
Oh gosh, I think we've got a long way to go.
We do.
Long way to go. This is, that it is the big vision. But yeah, we do have a long way to go. I mean, we've got a lot more. I think since the launch, we had a lot of people when we did the official launch in December join the training team and support and help and do a lot of stuff. And we've seen a lot of people come on as we've been talking about it at different WordCamps. But we have a long way to go, which is kind of why we're trying to reach out, because it's not just about the users in the sense of if I just want to go in and learn something, but it's also it's the businesses. It's what do you want to make sure that we actually have on there? So it's engaging with them and finding out what it is that they want to see on there as well.
Yeah,
Right.
looking at the website here and looking at the page that you're sharing with us, Courtney, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot on here. And a lot of folks are gonna need to be involved in order to make this happen. How big's the team, and how big is what can people do to help out if you are needing more folks?
At this time, we have a small crew, just as much of .org contributors do, of regular participation. During the pandemic, we've seen a lot of drop in that. Having joined the team myself in New York in 2014 at a WordCamp, I know that the biggest opportunity we had for new contributors to join us was those contributor days right after a WordCamp. So we would see upwards 30 people plus at a specific contributor day. I remember WordCamp US in 15, the first one. There were 45 people sitting at the training team's table. Give props to some of the predecessors before me that were very active in the DC and Philly community, because a lot of our early contributors were from WordCamps in the northern mid-Atlantic region in the US. So we had a lot of people that joined the team at those times, and they contributed through writing some lesson plans and things. I think I counted upwards of 150 people when we soft launched Learn. as far as people that have contributed to the project in an ongoing way. We have some tasks that are light housekeeping. People can swing in for, I want to give an hour or a couple hours here or there. And they can do a couple low lift type of things and be done if that's what they choose. In an ongoing way, we're always open for having people that would like to contribute more to that. That could be things like, say, if you've got feedback from you taught this thing and maybe you used a lesson plan or showed one of the videos even on Learn as part of that process. And you're like, well, I've got feedback from the people that took that lesson or learned that thing. Sharing that feedback even is an area of contribution that we're open for. Likewise, we want to know from employers, what do you need when you're hiring people? And how do you continue that training? I shared with Steve beforehand that I would like to hear a little bit about that, but that type of feedback is really valuable for the training team to know what's working, what's not, what do you need to assess. So I guess I'll interject a question. Steve, can you tell me a little bit more about when you are, as an agency owner, how do you provide that ongoing education or training to your staff?
Well, I think the first thing, before I answer your question, the company has to place a value on continuing education for it to work at all, right? So there are some companies that don't have that value, and I think you have to recognize that up front.
I don't know how a tech company cannot value continuing education. Like, how quickly do you become out of date if you do not in this industry specifically?
And that's specifically why we place a high value on continuing education, because it changes so rapidly, right? And so we've made that a part of our values, and ultimately I leave it up to my team to direct where we should go and what we should learn and what they're interested in, right? So if my team is always kind of out looking at new technologies, they spend time playing with new technologies. We allow that in their schedule to play with new technologies, and we also pay for any online classes or conferences that they want to attend, as long as it's a program. It's not a blank check, right? We do review and make sure that it's something that's going to be of value to the agency, but
it's not like a South by Southwest.
Yeah, but I haven't come across a conference that one of my team members has recommended that we haven't paid for. But we also, in addition to that, we have a lot of online courses that we just have a team account for, like Treehouse and Udemy and things like that.
So how do you train, bringing it back to more specifically in WordPress, and not necessarily new technologies, but even just when you're hiring, but how do you keep your people up to date on WordPress specific stuff? We talk about it a lot on the show, like the new stuff coming out, but do you, would you use some of the Learn materials if they were available for that?
We would, and specifically what we're doing now is, because we have a value on continuing education, every member of our team, is able to spend time teaching, somebody else on our team. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be senior to teach somebody junior. We have juniors that teach senior people stuff if it's a new technology that they've just learned. So we definitely make time, and we place a value on helping each other out. And so we kind of look to our team for that right now. So it's mostly internal.
See, I think that is exactly what you're talking about, right, Courtney? Is and Hauwa, that void right there, where it's like in history of WordPress, most of the documentation has been very minimal or very technical, like without a lot of gradient between that, and then not necessarily a great place for companies to come in and say, okay, here, watch these, 2 new videos that came up that cover the, the latest hooks in, 5.8 or whatever it happens to be. So that's what you're more looking to develop still, or are you providing resources for that already?
So we are in the process of creating courses. There are a few that are there. Polyglots has one that is about onboarding people to the Polyglots team. They are the folks that handle a lot of translation for the .org project, which is great. Community has one there too. And in the works currently is a get started using WordPress. But I've got a slight plan ahead. I need to flesh out a little more around theme dev. We have one. Daisy Olson will be releasing one in the not too distant future on theme dev as it relates to block-based themes. But of course, WordPress being back compatible, I also see a spot for how long will it be until agencies can get all of their clients converted over if they go that direction. So we need to learn the template hierarchy. We need to learn all of these things even before we get into more advanced plugin development. There are these steps that we go through and that we learn. We start with something simple like let's fork Hello Dolly. And then we move on to child themes. And then we learn the template hierarchy and putting together a theme from a framework before we move on to something more complex. So there is a lot to come yet. Courses are still brand new. So we have lesson plans and workshops. Courses are in the works, along with a UX audit and some results. So we'll probably see a slight redesign of the site in the near future. But what the team could certainly use help with is knowing here are the highest needs or the highest priorities we have. And then sequentially, if you think that maybe instead of teaching child themes before plugin dev, we should flip it or something like that. That's just an example. But if you've got an opinion about the order of which things should be learned, tell us that information. Those are areas where it's easy to contribute and speak into, here's some wisdom from out in the field, what we need.
Right.
Well, and what's great about this is that, you know, from the get-go, you're teaching best practices, right? And we, you know, when we're training each other internally on any technology, what is a constant throughout is we're always teaching best practices, right? And we want to make sure, especially with WordPress, we're following those best practices so that our technology is future-proof and backwards compatible. Without those best practices, you know, it has a tendency to break things.
Right.
And I think you're also making it accessible as well. So it's, you know, it's not, I mean, we did, I think it was last week, a couple of weeks ago, where we actually went in and we just made sure that everything was captioned. So, because we had quite a lot of workshops that were on there that weren't captioned, and it was like somebody did call us out and we were like, oh yeah, actually they haven't been, let's go in. So it's a call out, and we had people drop in, and we also had people translate, because I know we had WordCamp India earlier on this year, and during that training was there, and we saw a lot of people come on and started translating and even producing, you know, like how to just, you know, join the WordPress community in their language, and so getting all those captions. So I think there's a lot of potential for Learn, and it's just making sure that we have all the different people that it can impact actually getting involved, because you getting involved means you have a say. And we make sure that, you know, we get it going in the right direction. So yeah.
You know, one of the things I found was pretty powerful within the WordPress dashboard was that little bit that shows up in the corner there or on the dashboard that says, here's the upcoming WordPress meetups that are happening. Is there an opportunity for this sort of stuff to also live in that WordPress dashboard to drive traffic in to be able to learn this stuff? You know, I was reading a comment that Daniel wrote on YouTube, and he was asking that, like, how do you even know this even exists? Like, you're a WordPress developer, you claim that you're part of the community, but you don't know that this even is happening. You don't even know that this exists. Could we get this thing in the dashboard? And if we did get something like this in the dashboard, would this help?
Couple thoughts. One, if you're looking in the dashboard at upcoming events, the discussion groups that happen on Learn are all there. One thing that people are missing, though, when they sign up to go do that discussion group time, they're missing the opportunity to watch the video before they get to the discussion group. So in the education world, we have this thing called flipped classroom. You watch the videos ahead, you do the assignment ahead, and then you come to the discussion and you do the thing. So if you're going to join those discussion groups, please take advantage of watching or doing the thing before you show up. It helps with your learning journey.
I was going to ask real quick, is this a matter of SEO? Because when I just searched Learn WordPress Development, and I got the ones I expected, you know, WP Beginner and CSS Tricks and all the, and Udemy and all the ones that you'd expect. So is that why more people don't know about it, because it's not showing up in search results?
Yeah, I would like to see more SEO. One of the steps we have in creation of our materials is some SEO review. So thinking about what are the terms that people are searching for so that Learn is the thing that pops up. Definitely really important. If you go to WordPress.org, I know at least in North America, if you go to WordPress.org and look in the navigation bar at the top, Learn is listed as one of those tabs. Also, there was that we've had ideas float around. Probably should make a proper GitHub issue for this one. Ideas that have been floated around from long ago. There was a new user experience group about when we first start into WordPress, what we see in that welcome panel. Others have floated the idea of having a way to get people from that over to Learn when in an unobtrusive manner. Right. So when we go to write a post and we've just recently updated WordPress, sometimes we're prompted to like, hey, welcome to the block editor. I'm not thinking we'll be that forward with it, but something in the welcome box when we're first installing WordPress might be really handy for totally new users.
I guess who is the target audience in some of this? Because it sounds like it's a big mix. You have, developers that just want to brush up on new tech that's coming out. You have people that are brand spanking new. They're like, I highlighted a word. Now, how do I make it bold? And then there's people that are like, I want to know how to move blocks around. Like you have that whole group of people that want to learn this stuff. I don't know. It just seems like there's a couple places within WordPress itself, in the help tab up in the corner there. There could be a couple different places that this stuff could exist in, at least to drive people in. But what Steve was saying with SEO and all of that sort of stuff, like, there's plenty of opportunity for that as well. And it's just you got to compete with the big folks that are doing this stuff already, I guess.
It looked like you were going to say something.
I was going to say, and if you are an expert in SEO and you want to help, just come and join the training team. But yeah.
So actually, this is something that Courtney had touched on, and Hauwa and Courtney, I wanted to ask you about this. You talked about building future courses where like there is the greatest need. Like, do you figure out where the greatest need for future courses are from the discussion groups? From like where do the ideas for this stuff come up? Is it just someone volunteers and says, oh, okay, I can help you guys make a course, like, and gets to work? Or
that's a great question. So at this point, a lot of times I will look to how I instructed in a boot camp. I've also instructed WordPress in a high school setting. So I look at what would it take to get somebody up to, I've never touched code or used WordPress, to I can get an entry position in a job. In the further part of the career, that's where I need more people to give me input. I've spent 4 years working with the events calendar and I love my time there. I've got a bit of an idea from that experience about what my dev friends have told me that they need to know. I wasn't a developer while there, but I worked with a lot of them and I learned a whole lot about the process. And so talking to them about how did you get trained? What did you do? How did you learn this stuff? Was it easy or hard to learn? Easy. I never liked that word in learning or coding or anything easy. But
I mean, that's what we were talking about 2 weeks ago with Chris Wigman too, is that there is such a gamut. It's not only this whole range of people approaching WordPress differently, it's also when you're actually developing the whole slew of different technologies now that you have to know.
Yeah.
So really, like, how, and this is what we were talking about on the episode, is just like how do you choose which one to focus on? Like and even last week we were talking about, is it really you should just double down on React because that's really where blocks are going? Do you need to understand PHP, and the underlying technology? Like, I think even just having a map, and we've talked about this, Courtney, but it's like a map of learn these first, and as you go, then learn some React if you want to go in this direction. Sort of like maybe like a strength tree from like a D&D character or something. Like as you grow, you can make these choices and you add these spells on, and then you're like, okay,
Good
well, I'm
points.
going to add my React spell, and then.
But I know we're running short on time. But there was another part of your question I think is important is how do you get hired in the first place? Right. So that's the first challenge. It's not how do you learn on the job. It's how do I get a job where I can learn on the job. And I was going to say, really quick, here's how we hire at Zeek, and this is a refined process. It's always changing. The way we hire is we have a filtering system that we use on ZipRecruiter for first going through resumes to make sure that the resume matches the job posting. After that, the candidate goes through 3 interviews. It's an initial quick interview, it's a tech interview, and then it's a final interview, right? And even once they pass all those interviews, we don't hire immediately. We started all of our candidates on a 90-day contractor basis, which is basically their test period. And if their skills actually match the resume, then they get hired. That's how we go through it. We do that really to make sure that the candidates can do what they say they're going to do. And so the reason I explained all that is what I was going to advise for people that are looking to get work in this space is be honest with yourself and be honest with your skill sets and your level, because there's most likely a job for you if you're able to sort of self-reflect and make your resume match the job posting, right? We hire junior developers, we hire mid-level developers, and we hire senior developers, right? And those are 3 separate levels with a very specific rubric of what's required for that job, right? And we know when we look at a resume if somebody can has the skills to match that position. But if you're first starting out, you're a junior developer, and you have to be honest with yourself about that.
Yeah.
Would it be helpful? I think what you wanted to talk about, Courtney, and I think this would actually be something that would help employers, not like a LinkedIn profile, but if your WordPress profile, is that something you're working on, that your courses will show up?
Yeah. So courses are launching, and the idea is that we will see the completion of the course on your .org profile under another tab. So if you were to look at any of your WordPress.org profiles, you see a couple tabs across the top. One of them would have a completion of the courses that you've shown. There are a lot of comments coming in, which I love because we want the community's input on this, on learner achievements showing on your WordPress.org profile. So if you've got ideas or opinions about this, if the proposal that the training team has put forth is not something that you're favorable with, go ahead, tell us, but please be kind in telling us. Also, if you have other ideas or ways that you would like to see this happen, share those too. We're wide open for that kind of input. But having a progression of multiple courses. So not just one course, one course might cover, here's how to do a basic plugin. But if you want to be a plugin developer or get into a plugin development job, you might need a set of courses. And we're coming up with what the term is called in the near future. But those pathways, those tracks, whatever educational term we use for that,
Spells.
having lots of those all together, and then getting something on your profile that indicates that you've done that, and knowing what are the things that belong in that. We want to make sure that we're accounting for having the right methodologies and that we make it an opportunity for more people. There are lots of resources already everywhere you turn. But there's nothing that is a general consensus of saying, okay, on average, a junior dev in WordPress does roughly this and needs roughly this.
Right.
And that will change job to job, company to company. But there's some basic commonalities to that. And we would like to systematize some of that.
And that's like, it's not like a course certification, which I know so many people have wanted and talked about, is like, how do I get certified, as a WordPress developer? But not only would at least badges, whatever you want to call them, make it easy to, like, a way to document the work that you've done in educating yourself, but it would also serve as a place for employers to check, right? And like, look, they've done all this stuff. And I mean, sure, you could fake watching a video, but let's just give everyone the benefit of the doubt. And then it also kind of seems like it makes the profile itself more useful, like more active. Because if you're, you can get your one contributor badge or your couple things, but like if you're able to take courses and expand it and document that, then it's like, oh, go check out my profile and you can see what I know. That kind of brings people in and makes use of that profile in a way that I don't think I've never considered it being useful in that way before. It's like almost better than a LinkedIn profile because it's so specific to WordPress.
Yeah, and you could share it out, hopefully.
Right.
Try and get people to share it.
You could link it on your resume and be like, here's here's the courses that I've completed, so I should have this level of knowledge. So, that would make, for example, Steve's job easier to screen people and be like, have you done these? Great.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, we've got there's quizzes and assessments built in to both the workshops and within the lesson plans that they're running. So, and within the courses. So there is some element of assessment that goes on there. So just watching the video might not get you all the way there.
Right, exactly. So that's even better. It's more valid. And it's this kind of standard that's being, established that really just doesn't exist yet. I love it.
Well, that's about it. That was great. I'm glad we were able to talk about this, and I think that we're gonna have to have you come back and discuss further. It really stinks that that's gonna have to happen, but things happen.
Thanks so much.
So, yes, definitely. We'll definitely have you back and discuss this stuff. And we had a lively set of comments that were coming in through the various places that we stream this out to. So thank you very much for participating in that as well. Talk to y'all later. Here's our outro. Thanks. Go over to WPwatercooler.com/subscribe to subscribe to this content and the other content that we put out here on WP Watercooler Network. If you're listening to this as a podcast, you're probably even listening to this on the WP Watercooler podcast itself. I'm going to be putting it out onto that so you can be able to listen to it as well. If you haven't subscribed to DevBranch, be sure to subscribe to there. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.